Welcome to the 73rd edition of the Toy Fair in Nuremberg. Several members of the model railway community proudly presented their latest innovations. Among them was the company Märklin with its 3 brands. Specialized visitors from both domestic and international markets attended, and there was much to explore. Many fruitful conversations took place with these. This marks my 31st fair here in Nuremberg, so I have spent nearly half a lifetime at the Nuremberg Toy Fair. This novelty could also be seen in HFO.
Ja, die Baureihe 86 ist jetzt gerade zur Spielwarenmesse noch rechtzeitig als allererstes Muster.
The Class 86 was finished in time for the Nuremberg Toy Fair as the very first sample made from molded parts, that is, from the finished mold. I have to say, it looks really nice. It is very detailed and impressive. The 86 is to remain in the program for some time, a standard locomotive. There will of course be different versions, that is possible, because there are beautiful variants, but the 86 is actually a standard locomotive for the program. The fair served as an ideal venue to personally witness numerous new releases and identify current trends. Direct contact is simply irreplaceable. Wolfrat Bächle was a sought-after conversational partner. In front of us is the Landiluk. Can you say a few words about this beautiful model? Yes, the Landiluk has been a long-cherished wish. Switzerland is always appealing because it is a perfect railroad country. The Landiluk has a great history. I think it was introduced in 1939. It got its name because it was christened the Landiluk at the National Exhibition. It was probably the most powerful locomotive of its time with around 11,000 horsepower, which it brought to the rails in a streamlined manner. It is a double locomotive. It was in service on the Gotthard, hauling heavy trains. The HGE 44 from the Matterhorn-Gotthard Railway can also be found in the Gotthard region. It graces the LGB range and goes well with the Glacier Express. The hand sample of this LGB locomotive was also impressive. The GE 46353 of the Rhaetian Railroad is still in operation today. Year of construction, 1914.
This
is a cult locomotive, a locomotive that customers have been talking about for ages. I admit that the locomotive inspires me too. It will certainly find its customers. I was completely impressed by a locomotive from America. You have an operational example here. What can you say about the big boy?
It's
the most powerful and largest steam locomotive of all time, thus America. We are even making 2, the 4014 in 1 gauge and the 4013 with coal tender in N gauge. Talking about 1 gauge, I was a little worried about this project and whether such a huge giant would find a buyer. But I'm proud to say that it's going really well. Although now is a rather critical time, things are going wonderfully. Its size is quite surprising, 126.5 centimeters, 15.6 kilograms. I'm telling you, we put a lot of technical knowledge into it. You can make it entirely out of zinc, but we wanted metal, so we tried to come to grips with different alloys. It's a mixed construction made of zinc, aluminum, brass, to make such a large model at least tolerable enough in terms of weight to be able to hoist it onto the rails. Then there are the smoke generators. I don't know if you've already seen it steaming. It's gigantic what it emits in sync with the wheels. It has also become one of my pet projects. This locomotive will soon be appearing in 7 different versions. The Class 151 once characterized the freight traffic of the Deutsche Bahn. The 1-gauge model leaves nothing to be desired and shines with many fine details. You've already mentioned it. Difficult times ahead. Perhaps this will continue. Can you already sense a certain reluctance to buy? Or is the customer saying, I'm not saving on this hobby, model railroading is my life?
Also ich würde mal so sagen, ich glaube in Anbetracht der Gesamtsituation.
Let me put it this way. Given overall situation, knock on wood, it's still okay. I mean, the years of the pandemic were the exception, and we won't experience that again anytime soon. But we are still just above the level of 2019, which was a very decent year. And if I may compare, at the moment, we are just into the new year, and we are doing just as well compared to last January. So I'm very confident about this year as well. At the end of the day, I think we're also trying very hard. You mentioned the wide range that we are offering. We are launching many genuine new forms, not just any old color versions, but genuine innovations. Regardless of whether it's a Landi locomotive or a 151 for heavy goods traffic from the 70s. I think 170 of these were built. Then there's the new Thals car set, which fits in wonderfully with the hinged roof car, or new car families such as the double deep well-flat car.
Ob es neue Wagenfamilien sind wie auch der Doppeltaschenwagen.
Märklin and Trix have 3 versions of this locomotive in their program, and it's equipped ex-works. The T3000E is delivered fully loaded. A first hand sample has already been made from molded parts. The hinged latches for holding containers and swap bodies are movable. All versions have a specific representation in the area of the middle truck. The Vectron 193-774 from the rail traction company is a perfect match for the cars. This handsome engine has a prototypical roof garden with 4 pantographs. What about the N and Z or Z gauges? We have only touched on these in passing. You also have a lot of new products there. How is the customer doing there? Surprisingly well with Z. We have the V90 as a novelty for which the orders are coming in. The same goes for the automobile transport cars. Then there's the insider model, the Viessmann rail bus. I think it's also going down quite well, judging by the initial figures. You have to be very careful, but I think it fits. We also have the big boy in the N gauge, the 4013 in this case. It went surprisingly well. Since other manufacturers also made it, we had a bit of concern, but it has found its customer base. Then there's the 111, which always works. The 193 is really great. It's a bit like our house locomotive. Göppingen, Geislingen, Geislinger Steige, where it was the draught horse that drove up the Steige. I think we have a comprehensive program also in the Z and N gauges. Märklin is one of the few manufacturers that still largely produces in Germany and Europe. Will it stay that way? What are the plans for the future? Of course, we should keep it that way. I think the customer thanks us for the fact that we still manufacture a considerable proportion of our products in Germany and Hungary. Many are delighted when they walk through our factory in Göppingen and see that we really can build a locomotive from beginning to end at our own site, something that is quite unique in this day and age. I'm also proud of the fact that our shareholder sees this and accommodates us, or rather says to himself, we are a German company. That's why he wants to keep the German side. We certainly need a strong factory in Hungary. It has been a Märklin plant for over 30 years. When you walk through there, Märklin is written all over it, and the Märklin spirit resides amongst the people. And the 2 sites combined contain an unbelievable amount of experience. Nevertheless, I would like to be fair enough to say that you can't do without the Far East. We also have to make 1 or 2 products there. Not to mention, most or nearly all the electronics come from there, even if it's just components. You have to consider all of it, but we are also very stable in Europe. I just have to ask, since you know, what's coming next? The narrow double slip switch for C-Track. Anything new to say about it since our last conversation? You've probably already discovered them. We are really already at the final detailing stage, so I bet your next question is, when is it being released? It will definitely be this year. Then I'm reassured and can start my planning and that of my buddies. That means it's coming and we can get started. Another thing I've recently discovered, you now do a lot with the buffer heights and the kinematic shafts according to the NEM standard. Is that going down well with customers? Are they reacting positively? Perhaps the DC customers customers of the Trix brand are saying, now I can use this with my other vehicles. Absolutely. You can't just think in old terms. NEM is a standard. And it stipulates that if you want to match the prototype to some extent, you have to lower the buffer height a little. It wasn't easy at all to get our coupling system to run cleanly underneath, especially in the various radii, but it works very well. There are also a lot of 3-wire railroaders who increasingly appreciate the fact that Märklin is also trying to recreate the prototype in great detail. Yes, it has been well received.
Hochdetailliertes Vorbild nachzustellen und es kommt gut an, ja.
Let's go back to the length scale. You can get express train cars in 1:100 and in 1:93.5, which I think is still a very good compromise, especially for smaller layouts. Now you have offered a train set in 1:87 scale for the first time. Is this a test balloon, or can the customers say, yes, Märklin Trix will increasingly come in 1:87 in the future in the car area? I'm referring here to the long express train cars. Your normal cars are in scale. If I remember correctly, it is always critical from 26.4 meters, and the traveling Märklinian, or rather the toy train enthusiast, is the one who usually says, please don't make it too long, please shorten it. After all, it looks a bit ugly if the radii are not modeled on the original scale and you always cut the curves or get stuck somewhere on an old overhead line or old turnout lantern. I think you still have to take that into account. But there is a certain amount of pressure from the public who say, don't shorten them. Yes, to a certain extent we can also call it a trial balloon to see how customers ultimately take it. So far, the response has been surprisingly good. Let's see what we learn from it. I think you simply have to be flexible and take all customer wishes into account to a certain extent. Many thanks for the interview. Märklin and you have a good trade fair. Come back to Göppingen healthy and a long list of orders. Thank you so much. I hope we will. At the moment it's looking good. Okay, thanks a lot. Confidence is definitely called for, especially as Göppingen is also thinking about the next generation.
Ja, also wir haben dieses Jahr vor allem im Startup-Bereich schöne Neuheiten.
Yes, we have some great novelties this year, especially in the startup area. In addition to more classic model railroad items such as the regional express cars, this year we have launched a special Christmas starter pack and a matching supplementary track pack. The nice thing about it is that we have white snow-covered tracks with a little glitter effect, so that you can build a beautiful Christmas layout under the Christmas tree. That's the special thing we have in the startup segment this year. At My World, we still have the classic battery-operated trains. This year we will be producing the Glacier Express. We have an automobile transport train that comes with lots of play options for children. The sliding wall wagon can be opened and loaded. The whole thing is, as you would expect from My World, battery operated, of course, with magnetic couplings, light and sound functions. Such were the impressions from the Märklin booth. Now we continue with some of the accessory manufacturers, many of whom fortunately also found their way to the Franconian metropolis. At Busch we noticed a weathered signal box that has truly seen better days. All the window panes are broken. It is available in HAFO and TT and seems to be very suitable as a backdrop for photo shoots. The F-15 diesel tractor from Fendt is released for tractor enthusiasts. The forest is not doing well. Dead spruce trees with realistically reproduced dried needles now make this clear on HAFO and TT layouts. Even aliens are hanging about. They are available as a set, complete with photographers and accessories. This tree to be felled has been marked. And finally, a lake with a moving boat, swimmers and campers. Faller has a hops-related theme this year. An impressive brewery is at the center of the HAFO novelties. Veltins from the Sauerland region. The premium kit contains many decorative details and whets the appetite for a cool drink. An office building can be added to the brewery or the Ratskeller, a place where many people would certainly like to spend an hour or two. The Österreich passenger ship was presented here in nominal size N. It can be an eye-catcher not only on the layout, but also as a standalone model in a display case. Another highlight is the traditional Engadin house, thanks to its typical architecture and elaborate sgraffito decoration. The Micro-Motion Night Tournament from Noch is limited to 1,000 pieces. The blue and red knights compete for the hand of the king's daughter. May the best man win. You can create a colorful medieval market with additional figures and kits. Such events have become very popular and are an interesting eye-catcher on the layout. If you build layouts, you also need trees. Noch supplies its handmade master trees for this purpose, and they look very realistic. There are spruces, oaks, birches and much more. And also Havot figures printed entirely in color on many themes, such as the musician, the painter and his model or the Venus from a famous Botticelli painting. Around the corner, Viessmann presented its novelties. Constanze Viessmann cheerfully demonstrated a nasty speed trap. A truck is traveling too fast and is stopped. Car and emotion make this possible. A vehicle detector recognizes the offender. The new Type 11 Beetle is on the road at various speeds. It can be charged through an inductive charger and has a newly developed front axle. It is always astonishing to see the possibilities of the Viessmann car motion system. That was our short tour of Hall 7A during the 73rd Nuremberg Toy Fair. See you again in 2025.